$18,000 a year in your TSP, just like you can as a young person in your 401k, and the government does no matching. Okay, it's just what you put in and so forth. Under the new system, which we'll talk about toward the end today, there will be an option for you to get some matching funds like many companies do for the government. What you give up for that is some of your retirement guarantee. So it's a trade-off that needs to be carefully evaluated. I threw that out and didn't tell you about me. I want to tell you a little bit about my story. I'm a 79 grad, so I know that's ancient history to the mids that are here, but there was an academy that long ago. It really did exist. I went off and was a surface warrior. I was nuclear trained. I had the great honor of having 2 commands at sea. I commanded a frigate and then a cruiser. And when I first got out of the Navy, I'd been a client of First Command since 1983. I wasn't smart enough to find them as a midshipman, but as a JO down in Norfolk, I found them and let them coach me along my path. And I always thought, I think I want to do that. In fact, there were 2 times I almost left the service to do this. When I retired, I wasn't quite that smart, and I jumped into the defense industry because it's really easy in DC after 25 or 30 years in uniform to jump into the defense industry. And I just got to tell you, it just was not my passion. It was okay, and it was a paycheck. But as your young men and women will know as they go out in the fleet, when it's your passion, it really doesn't matter about the paycheck. You go do something that you love, and it's not like going to work. And so for me, this is the first time since taking my uniform off that I'm really passionate every morning about getting up and do what I do, because I'm helping people. And I did this for a while, and then the position came open to come to Annapolis, and I got to move back here and start in this office last October, and I couldn't be happier to have part of my job description be that I have to work with the Naval Academy. How cool is that, you know, as an old grad? So very good. Let's keep going with the acronyms and the footballs, Gretchen.
I have all the depressing ones. So his letters are DIC. You were so good on LES, I was going to give you a hard one to see if I could stump you. Does anybody know what DIC is? So it's Dependent Indemnity Compensation.
Close.
Close. You were close.
You're very
though.
close.
Right. So DIC is an active duty benefit that your spouse will get if you die while you're on active duty. Right now, it is about $1,200 a month, like $1,257, that your spouse will get for the rest of his or her life, provided that they do not remarry. It is a tax-free benefit that you get. You also have DIC for kids. It's $311 per child up until the age of 18. So it's just one of those active duty benefits along with your SGLI that you would get if you were killed on active duty.
So mine's a little more interesting, a little more upbeat. I'm going to avoid the center. Who else? Oh, you got volunteered.
Wait just a second, he'll bring you the mic.
No pressure.
Ours is BAH.
BAH. Yours, keep it. Do you know what that is? Yep. So basic allowance for housing, exactly right. Anybody know what it is here in Annapolis? Close. 1,800 was the guess. Yep, it's right around $2,000 right now. Went up about 1.6% from 1980 last year. Per month, right. By comparison, I send a lot of my clients to Pensacola. Anybody have any questions what it is in Pensacola?
How much is it?
Okay, it's right around $1,100 a month in Pensacola. How is it that they can expect to live on $2,000 here and $1,100 in Pensacola? Generally, we assume the plans we put in place, basically the advice we're giving, we want them to make sure that they're living on the economy. So we put a plan in place that allows them to say, I know my overall income is going to vary. This is going to be sustainable no matter where they are. Anybody know what base pay for an ensign or second lieutenant under 2 years is right now? Say it again.
It's like 35K without all the stuff.
Okay, it's actually really close. Yep, it's almost $3,000 a month base pay, right out the door. $5,000, basically $5,166 total base pay in Annapolis this May. Fair to say more money than they've seen before? And is that scary or is that exciting? So yeah, the answer is usually both, okay? Next.
Sure, let me get some people back here. You know, if you're not too close. See what you got.
We have leadership.
So what financial term is that? Explain that one to me.
I have no idea.
You won't find leadership on your LES. But part of our message today is this whole financial topic is a matter of leadership. You graduate, your midshipmen graduate and they go to the fleet, they will instantly have 6, 12, 15, 20 enlisted sailors or Marines reporting to them, looking to them for guidance and advice. And we believe knowledge on these subjects is part of being a good leader. What do you do? Gretchen talked about SGLI, $29 a month for $400,000 of risk protection. That's extremely inexpensive. And it provides a level of security for the family for the things we don't like to talk about, but can happen. What do you do as a young officer when Fireman Smuckatelli comes in to see you and says, I want to cancel my SGLI because I want to spend that $29 a month on beer? I'd have a lot more fun that way. And so often you'll be in that position. Security clearances are a huge deal. Your sailors and Marines have the ability to put themselves in harm's way of keeping their security clearance because they run up credit card debt and are in a position where they are vulnerable. The average military family is carrying a credit card debt. The average family is carrying a credit card debt of between $10,000 and $15,000 balance. Okay? This is something that really needs to be taken care of. Some of our youngest, most junior enlisted members are actually applying for and receiving food stamps because they've got themselves in a financial situation that it's hard to make ends meet. So we take this very seriously, and I don't mean to be kind of in a depressing mode, but some of this stuff, you have to think about it almost in a scary way to realize how important it is to sit down and have a plan and be sure that you're on track for your future.
So I'm going to piggyback on Chuck really quick. How many, if you're under 25 in the room, how many of you have a checkbook? Raise your hand if you have a checkbook and you're under 25.
Yeah.
There's a handful. So when my husband was on active duty, I said we were in Germany, and debit cards were around, but lots of times, especially when you go to the commissary, lots of people were writing checks, right? Leading while we were there was when they were going to start to take checks and run them through the thing, and it was going to automatically debit from your account. It used to be that what you could do is you could float a check, right? Because when is the commissary the busiest? The 1st and the 15th, right? Because that's when lots of service members now get their next paycheck and they can go and buy the food, right? But you used to be able to float a check. So if you were running out of food on the 28th or 29th or the 13th or 14th, right, you could go a few days early, write the check, and then you would know that you had a handful of days before it would actually clear your bank account. At that point in time, you'd have money. 6 months prior to this new system coming in, every family readiness group meeting, every FRG meeting, you can't float checks, you can't float checks, you can't float checks, you can't float checks, because they knew there were going to be just that many service members that were going to have a problem with this. It is a huge deal. Financial literacy, especially being educated enough to be able to help the soldiers and sailors underneath you, is really important. Just things as simple as going to the commissary and not being able to float a check took 6 months, and we still had people that were getting in trouble because they wrote a check on the 28th and didn't realize it.
Or even worse, literally having a sailor come to me back in the days of checkbooks being the way of things done, saying, I don't understand why you're getting those letters from the creditors there, Lieutenant. I can't be out of money.
Got
There's
checks.
still checks in my checkbook. Okay? And we laugh because it sounds so silly, but it really happens. And so these great young leaders are going to graduate this year and next year and all are going to go out and can, by their knowledge and by their influence, make a difference in these young people's lives in a very positive way.
So I now have the last of the depressing ones. You have 2 letters.
2, there's 3 on here. SBP, ADSBP.
So SBP and ADSBP. You know what those are? Does anybody know what those are? Right, so SBP is the Survivor Benefit Plan. ADSBP is Active Duty Survivor Benefit Plan. So we'll do SBP first. So SBP is the Survivor Benefit Plan, right? When you're on active duty, your retirement is actually for you. So if you retire, the service member retires, if you do not elect SBP, when you die, your retirement goes with you. My mom spent 20 years following my dad around on active duty, actually 26 years following around in the Army. I think she should get the retirement just as much as he does, but I don't make the rules. So what SBP is it gives your spouse a portion of your retirement should you predecease your spouse. So the way that it works is you have your active duty or your retired pay. You're going to pay 6.5% of that retirement pay to give your spouse 55% of your retirement pay. So if your retirement pay is $1,000, your spouse will not get all $1,000. He or she's only going to get $550. Active duty SBP works fairly similarly. It's based on the number of years you have in, but it's kind of the same sort of benefit that you have while you're on active duty. Once you're in retirement, you have to elect SBP. Just like with SGLI, SBP is not a decision that the service member gets to make. It is a decision that your spouse makes. So your spouse has to sign off and say, yes, I will take SBP, or no, we will not take SBP. It's not the service member's decision. And there's a lot more information as you go through TAPS classes if you get that far in your career. But just know that that's another survivor benefit that a spouse has. So not only is it SGLI, but it's active duty SPP and then DIC. And one of the things I didn't talk about when I was talking about SGLI is you also have what's called death gratuity. So death gratuity is $100,000 and it's paid within 72 hours of a service member's death. So your SGLI piece is actually, with that, is $500,000 total that you would get. Okay, so she asked if there's any non-spouse benefits. SVP does have a child-only benefit, and your child, depending on the age, can have SVP, but there is not any non-parent or wife or spouse or child benefit, no.
So why does all this matter? I mean, we got a couple more footballs before we wrap things up, but as I listened to Gretchen say some of that, I want to put it in perspective for you for a minute. It matters because what we believe in is making a plan. That's what our company believes in. Coaching active duty, retired, hardworking, middle-income Americans into having a plan, because if you don't know where you're going, you're bound to end up somewhere else. The military retirement is a very, very good benefit. But we just talked earlier, base pay plus housing allowance plus sustenance allowance and all, it's X. Well, your retirement is only based on your base pay. So at 20 years, cut your base pay in half. Now, if something happens where tragedy hits your family, even if you have SBP, now it's 55% of that. So, you've gone from this level of an income stream to this level to this level. There are very good things you can do to plan to be prepared for that eventuality, because the best I can tell, we all eventually are going to leave this earth. And so putting all those pieces together and thinking through it is part of what we do. How do you supplement that income in your retirement? How do you start now, take the time value of money and the power of compounding interest so that the little bit you're putting away now is worth a whole lot more than if you start when you're 40 or 50? Okay. Question? He's got a mic.
So, I mean, most of us in this room come from a generation where we saved and we learned at an early age to save. What I find out, and I'm working in the civilian world, is the millennials don't always see they like it now, right? You guys are out there dealing with them on a regular basis and preaching this message. How do we get through to our kids now to look at something that's 20 or 30 years down the road? I mean, that was prevalent back when, from my parents, we were born in the 40s and 50s or earlier, and it rolled on to our generation, but now the new generation doesn't necessarily see it that way.
We see two things. It's a great question. We see two things in our activities on a routine basis and in our research and in polling the attitude of active duty military members. We'll partner with Military Times and other organizations to do these large constituent surveys of what the military's attitude is and are about these things. Even though there is a reputation that the millennials are about now, we have found in our research that the vast majority actually want to talk about this and want to be coached because they don't know what they don't know, and they are smart enough. Who are they going to turn to? They want to turn to somebody they can trust. They will often ask a parent. That's why we come to Parents Club events and tell people that we are a resource. Are we the only one out there? Absolutely not. We certainly are one that is focused on our military members and trying to do right by them, but it could be somebody else. And the other thing I would tell you, sir, is that all of this generation that we're describing, the millennials, they're all going to get it at different times. So you could bring me 100 midshipmen and we could talk to every one of them on an individual basis, and about half of them would say, man, I want to get started right now. I see the value. The other half probably no, but they'd get their promotion to JG in 2 years in Pensacola or Norfolk or San Diego, and maybe that seed was planted and they go, you know what? I got to start thinking about this. Or I met this wonderful person I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I got to start being more than a fun, freewheeling junior officer that's having a great time and think about it. So we certainly try and make ourselves available for when the individual is ready. Because I can't emphasize enough, any plan we build with someone to coach them on has to be their plan. Can't be my plan. Nobody's going to follow my plan because it's not theirs. And so that's the way we deal with it. And for us, it's just keeping the message out there so that people hear it over and over again. We think that's powerful. And I'll give you an example that resonates. Take a 20-year-old who contributes to their IRA every year for 10 years, and at age 30 quits saving. And their peer goofs off from age 20 to 30 and then starts maxing out their IRA at age 30 At age 65, the person who did it for 10 years and quit will have more accumulated because they started early. There's nothing more powerful than the time value of money and what it'll do for you. And so that, usually when I show them the numbers on that, they go, oh, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe I should think about what we're doing.
So I also read an article a little while ago, about why we don't do things that are good for us now, right? Why don't we eat healthy? Why don't we exercise? Like, we all know we're supposed to. We know we're supposed to eat healthy, exercise. Why don't we save? And that's because you are doing those things for future you, right? Not today you. Like, just because you go run 3 miles, you're not going to drop 2 pounds like that. It takes a little bit of that. So what we try to do with the written plan and that coaching is we try to help them see what future you looks like. And the more that you can bring future you into today, the easier it is to put that money aside, because you can see what it looks like. I have in my office my goals and dreams and my vision board, and that's what I'm saving for. My husband and I regularly talk about what happens when our kids leave the house. I have a 12 and 11-year-old, and it's getting way faster as they get older. Like, it's crazy. But we talk about what we're going to do. So we know what that future us is going to look like, and it constantly changes. So we try to help give people the vision and the things to talk about so that future you comes to today, which makes it easier. It makes it easier to say, you know what, I know why I'm not putting that $100 to go out to dinner and why I'm funding my TSP, because I want to be able to retire at 55. I want to have it be fun. I want to have to be able to travel and do all this other stuff. So we try to help them bring future you into today, because that's really what's going to help you. If you're just putting money away just because, eventually something that happens now is going to win out. Right, there's going to be something, that next pay raise when you didn't go invest half of your pay raise, because it's more fun not to. You have more money now if you don't. So that's one of the things that we try to do, is help give them that vision of what that looks like so that they can save more today.
Okay, we're down to the last couple of these, and then we'll do Q&A for as long as you have questions.
So Chuck mentioned that everybody who takes a football and comes to our table gets a free Starbucks gift card. Starbucks, right?
Right.
Who wants a Starbucks gift card?
Good catch, good catch.
Help
I got to
with
come
the mic.
over here and help you. Wait a minute.
Thank you, Chuck.
Character.
Okay, so why is character important here?
Because your character drives your decisions and your direction.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, Glenn, your thoughts, and then...
So we talk about character and leadership because they're integral to what everything we do. In this regard, you have sons and daughters who are going to be frontline leaders in 4 months. They've already started, courtesy of you, building that foundation that's going to make them leaders. So I read an interesting quote 10 years ago that character is who we are in the dark. When nothing else matters, when the consequences aren't there, character is who we are when it doesn't matter. You've started building that character. You've given them that foundation that they're going to build their leadership qualities on. And they're going to, I think they're going to keep building it themselves. Character is so fundamental to all the decisions, all of the drivers, all of the things that we find of value, all the things we get excited about, the things we put energy into, the things we decide are worth our most valuable commodity, time. Leadership is a big outgrowth of that. The idea that we can base how it is that we want to be perceived from other people and what value we offer them comes from character. Now, frankly, we think a lot of that is also built on what it is they can do for themselves. For example, we talked about the frontline leadership. That's a reality they're going to be dealing with very, very soon. A lot of that confidence, a lot of that ability, that leadership ability, comes from the idea that basically they've already got their own stuff squared away. When they have a sailor or a Marine come to them and ask them, how is it that you have extra money at the end of every month? How is it that you have the right amount of emergency savings? If they're doing it themselves, those answers are natural and easy. Now, if they've got some resources, if they know they've got some outreach, financial readiness, all the services have their relief agencies. If they know First Command, if they know USAA, they've got those resources, that's good too. But if it's their own, if they're doing it, then those answers are natural. That's the basis of a leader. Yep, I think that's all on that one.
I'll add one thing to what Glenn said, and that is we'd like to think we're really good people to work with in this arena, character-wise. 70+% of our advisors have some type of tie to the military, prior service, retired, military spouse, etc. If you come by after the next presentation and visit us, we've got a poster board out there. There are, out of about 400 people, there are 35 roughly, almost 10% of the advisor force are graduates of the U.S. Naval Academy. There's another 35 or so that are graduates of West Point. We it's in our DNA to be part of that advisory service for you guys and for the mids and the junior officers and their senior leaders. Got two more here. Yes, ma'am. Oh, and then I throw it, but I got to bring the microphone.
Oh, TRICARE.
Okay, so what's TRICARE?
That's the medical insurance?
Okay, absolutely. So while you're on active duty, you have TRICARE Prime automatically for you as the service member. You get to elect TRICARE Prime or Standard for your family. You can go through all that bit. When you retire, if you stay on a full deal, you have similar opportunities. Has anyone ever heard of TRICARE for Life? Okay, somebody back there has. I am going to race back here and get a comment. So that didn't exist when I was first coming around. What's TRICARE for Life?
It's medical insurance for retirees and their dependents.
Yeah, exactly. So the commitment of the military and the government is to ensure you have that medical insurance. But the squeeze of finances on our government, this is a huge cost. So TRICARE for Life is an adjustment where when a retired service member turns 65, Medicare is their primary insurance and TRICARE is secondary. And that's been done, again, to help cut the total cost burden of the retiree force that we have to take care of. Okay, we got one more very important one that we're going to do, and then we'll take Q&A.
VRS.
You know what that is? This is my favorite because it's new. This is the blended retirement system. If you walk out by our booth, one of our big posters there is this huge amount of data about the blended retirement system. Again, cost pressures on our government and the military. Starting any active duty member that starts after January 1st of 2018 will be on the new military retirement system. Anyone on January 1st who has less than 12 years of service, which is every one of your midshipmen, will have a choice. Do I grandfather into the old system or do I go into the new system? Let me give you about a 45-second summary of the change. The new system is a 20% cut in the guaranteed retirement. Instead of 50% at 20 years, it's 40%. And 2% a year instead of 2.5%. There are contributions in the new system. So thrift savings plan we talked about a little bit before, the government will do matching if you're on the new system. Automatically will give 1% of base pay into your TSP account whether you do anything or not. And if you contribute, you can contribute up. If you're doing 6%, they'll match up to 5%. So you can be putting away 10, 11% toward your retirement to build it up to make up that gap of that big cut. That's the second C. Third C is continuation pay. At 12 years of active duty, the people on the new system will have a choice. If at the 12-year point they say, I promise to do 4 more to 16, they will get a one-time lump sum bonus based on the demands of the service at the time that will be equal to as little as 2.5 times a month's pay, up to as high as 15.5 times a month's base pay. So if you're in a very critical specialty, you might get essentially a year's salary as a bonus. That is recoupable by the government if you don't finish those 16 years. And then finally, choices is the 4th C. And at retirement, there will be 3 options. The typical option we're used to now, a monthly payment for the rest of your life. Or you can take a 25% reduction in that payment for a lump sum. Or you can take a 50% reduction in that payment for a larger lump sum now. And those reductions will revert back to the full amount at Social Security full retirement age, which today for all the midshipmen and service members we're talking about would be age 67. What we've not seen yet, and we don't have full analysis of, is how they will do the calculations for those lump sums. The preliminary indications is they will be, unfortunately, discounted to a present value that is not worth near as much as what the lifetime payment would be. And again, that's where a coach comes into play. We have talked a lot. I want to finish with a couple of things, and then we'll take as many questions as people have here and at our booth. One, you got a bag when you came in. If you didn't, make sure to let us know. We'll get you one. It's got some classic advertising material in it. Skim through that. Most important thing is give that little book to your mid, okay? It's called The Elephant in the Room, and it's about this whole decision of whether you're going to plan or not. That book was jointly written by a group of advisors based on real-life experiences that they dealt with, and then they called it all into this nice little story that takes 20 or 30 minutes to read, but it gets you thinking. The last thing I would say before opening questions is let this information, if valuable to you, let it be a call to action, okay? One of the other things you're going to find in that bag is a little wooden nickel with the letters TUIT on it. Does anybody know what that is? A round to it, okay? When I first sat down with my advisor in my dining room in 1983 in Chesapeake, Virginia, he presented all this stuff to me that I should be doing, and I wanted to think about it. And he reached in his pocket and he said, handed me one of those. And so the line is, he said, yeah, you're going to do this when you get around to it. I've given you one. Now you have no excuse. Okay? Hey, thank you very much for your attention. Be sure you get a bag if you didn't get one. You're going to get a great presentation from the Alumni Association. And so while we have a few minutes, are there any questions? We'll run a mic to you.
Is there an analysis of how many years in for the blended system versus the other? Does it make sense to do one versus the other?
Yes. And I would tell you it's a very personal thing that should be done at individual counseling for each individual. In general, if an individual is going to make a career, they should stay on the old system in broad general terms. Because you must, if you're on the new system, with the matching and the continuation pay, you have to make virtually a perfect choice at every step of the way and never have a hiccup to break even. Otherwise, you're going to end up behind. However, if you're not sure you're going to make a career out of it, you're better to go into the new system because the TSP contributions you'll be making in the matching are portable just like a 401k. So if your midshipman, if your junior officer, if their enlisted members are pretty committed that this is not a long-term 20-year career for me, being aggressive about their contributions to the thrift savings plan so that at the 6, 8, or 10-year point, they can take that with them to their next career rather than have nothing. That was one of the selling points of this program. It certainly is better for the non-careerist, but for the careerist, it's fraught with danger of not staying up to speed with the old system.
Under the old system, 20% of active duty, so 1 out of every 5 gets some kind of benefit. In the new system, 85% of active duty will have a benefit because they do get to take it with them. So like my husband would have had a matching contribution for his 4 or 5 years on active duty. If you are automatically in the new system, they don't give you the match until year 2. If you choose to switch from the old system to the new system, your match will start right away. So those that are going to automatically be enrolled, they have to wait 2 years to get their match. Everyone else gets it right away.
Here's another question.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Good morning. It does have to do with some fiduciary stuff, but I think it's more legal, so I don't know if you can answer this question for me. So if, when they're deployed or when they join the fleet, when their ship is out or when they're out, wherever they are, they may either get injured and not be able to make decisions about what health care they want, medical care, or maybe there's some issue with a bank account that they can't take care of from wherever they are. So my question is, how and would you recommend, how would you go about, would there be like a limited power of attorney that someone, either parents or spouse, would have in order for them to be able to be taken care of when they're not able to take care of themselves?
So I know before my husband deployed, we had pre-appointment briefs all the time, and one of those stops was at JAG for him to get a power of attorney so that he could make decisions. Most active duty power of attorneys have a 2-year expiration. They're not unlimited, because once you have it, you have to revoke it. So what they do is they usually have a 2-year limit so that you have to continue to do them, but they do have that. Yeah, so usually the one that he got was pretty general. Depending on what they need to do, some institutions want a specific one for you to be able to act. But the one that they're usually going to give you is fairly general, but it could be that the institution, like we worked with Fidelity and a whole bunch of fund companies for a little while, and they didn't like powers of attorney that were over 6 months old. Until we had conversations, they're like, well, they're deployed for 13 months. So, and the thing is good for 2 years. You can't just have it be good for 6 months. That was like us working with business partners. So there are some institutions that want you to be able to, they want you to have a specific power of attorney.
I'm going to get one more question before we get your next presentation in here, but we will be at our booth until they close the doors here today. So if you have additional questions, don't hesitate to come by and see us one-on-one.
You may have covered the question, but you were talking about old system versus new system. Is there a scenario in the old system where the member can get TSP as well?
So in the good question, all members can contribute to TSP like any other investment. They just, under the old system, don't get any government funds matching. So thrift savings plan is an extremely good accumulation tool. It's very low cost because it's government subsidized, so the expense ratios are very small. It is limited in the number of different vehicles they have because it's being run at very low cost, but we will help guide anyone on the right blend of those funds that they should use. But yes, TSP is available to every service member right now on either system. It's just you only get the matching funds if you are on the new retirement system and then the government will contribute, just like many of your companies match a portion of your 401k contribution. And let me finish up by thanking you again. We could not be more honored than to have this 45 minutes of your time, as valuable as people's time are. Congratulations again on the achievement of your sons and daughters. I used to say it seems like just yesterday, but it is starting to seem like it was a couple years ago. You will see me around town. I am a little bit of a rabid football fan, and now that I live here, I'll be getting into more of the sports and everything. No comment. It's great to support this institution, and for those of you young people that are just finishing your tours here, you become even more and more fond of the institution the longer your experience goes, and you get a little separation from the day-to-day grind you're going through now. I am happy, we are happy as a group, as individuals, to sit down with anyone. For those that are graduating in May, your time is running out. Get with us. You want to get with your cohort or your buddies, and you got a half a dozen or whatever, get a hold of me or Glenn or Gretchen. We'll get with you on the weekend. We'll go somewhere. We'll all have a burger. We'll just have a conversation. We want to educate you. Knowledge is power. I heard that somewhere. And so it's a good thing. Thank you again, and I'm going to get off the stage so the Alumni Association can do their thing, the main event, but we really appreciate your time and attention. We're over there to talk to you after you finish your next routine. Thanks so much.